What's up everyone, it's Sprometheus, and 'tis the season for pumpkin spice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my recipe for this, which I think is the best recipe. I may be a little biased, but either way, let's dive in. So I'm going to grab a medium saucepan, and I'm going to get to cooking. First up, we're going to make the simple syrup, so we're going to add 1.5 cups of water. We're going to add 1 cup of sugar and 1/2 cup of brown sugar. We're going to mix this up and let it kind of dissolve and look awesome, and we're going to turn on medium heat. From here we're going to do a little bit of a mixing. We want to make sure we're trying to break up any chunks and dissolve as much of that sugar as we can as things kind of heat up. Now if you've ever made simple syrup before, we're going to wait for this to come to a boil, so we're going to play the waiting game. Once we're at a nice rolling boil, we're going to add cinnamon, allspice, nutmeg, and ginger. So these are all going to be 1 teaspoon of each, and then we're going to add 1/3 cup of pumpkin puree. Don't mind me, just trying to be thorough. Now it's time to stir everything up. Make sure you incorporate everything in there so there's nothing floating on the surface, and that we have a nice clean looking syrup. And now we're going to play the waiting game again. We're going to set an alarm for 15 minutes and let this cook up. Alright, time's up, so we're going to give it 1 quick stir to make sure we get everything off the surface and that nothing's sitting on the bottom, and we're going to pull it off of heat. Next up, I'm going to strain it into this V60 because there's a lot of fluid in here. We're going to run it through the strainer, and as it fills up, you'll notice that it doesn't look like it's draining very fast. That's because there's a lot of dense, heavy things sitting at the bottom, kind of blocking the strainer. You can see it's hardly dripping out the bottom. So what you want to do is grab a spoon and kind of start moving this around a little bit to try and get it to keep draining through. As you keep working it, you'll notice it starts draining, and then once it gets pretty low, you want to start pressing on it with the spoon to try and get all that moisture out of there. So once you get more and more moisture content, it should slowly start drying out, and at the end, it'll look like this. You could eat it if you want. The last step with the syrup is we're going to put it into a jar or a container, and once it hits room temperature, we'll drop it in the fridge and put a date on it. Now that the syrup has had some time to cool off, I'm going to pull a shot, I'm going to split it, I'm going to do 1 small iced latte and 1 single shot cappuccino, and we're going to try it both iced and hot. Now the biggest reason I really like this syrup, in terms of pumpkin spice lattes, which aren't really my thing, it's not incredibly sweet. Oftentimes you get one and it's just like instant cavities in your mouth. This one is still going to be relatively sweet. It's what you expect. It's going to be the flavors you expect. It's going to have that spice to it. It's going to be delicious, but it's not going to be curdling sweet. It's not going to curdle the milk right away. It's not going to get oily on the surface. It's just a nice, clean syrup. As always, you want to make sure you're following all the proper protocols when making your espresso, because that will make or break the drink overall. First up is my small pumpkin spice latte. I'm just going to do this with a nice 7-ounce cup and whole milk. Next up, we're going to make our iced latte, so I'm going to put 1 ounce of syrup in there, put the milk over the top, and I'm good to go. Now I don't want to leave all those who don't have an espresso machine out of the fun, so I'm going to use this French press and some cold brew to make some pumpkin spice cream cold brew. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this top piece off here, this little lid. So I'm going to unscrew the bottom, take off this little black piece up top, which has more threads than you'd think. And then take off this black cap piece. Then everything goes back on, and we're ready to make some cold foam. So just like the other drinks, we're going to do 1 ounce of syrup. You can always change that. We're going to do 4 ounces of milk. I'm going to pour this into the French press, and we're going to foam it up. Flip the press piece back in, and we're going to start foaming. So every time this press piece breaks the surface of the milk, it stretches it. So you'll get this heavier foam. The more you press, the heavier it gets. You want to do it for about 30 to 45 seconds to get a nice heavy foam. We're going to get a cold glass with some ice. We're going to fill it mostly with cold brew, and there we go, we're dropping the foam right on top. And that's that. Let me know if you have any questions. Of course, with most of these drinks, you can adjust the syrup to your preference in terms of how sweet you want it, but I usually do 1 ounce to 1.5 ounces depending on the size. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and drop a subscribe if you're new around here. Feel free to share this recipe with your friends. This will be an amazing one to have this fall. You can always follow me on Sprometheus.com, find me on Instagram at Sprometheus, and as always, stay caffeinated, pony boy.